This presentation is about school resource officers, also known as SROs. By the end of this presentation, you will be able to define an SRO, describe a brief history of SROs in schools, describe the multiple roles an SRO plays in a school, and delineate the boundaries between SRO and school officials in regards to student discipline and the law. SROs are sworn law enforcement officers who are ideally specially selected and trained to promote safety within schools. An SRO's primary role is to make the school a physically safe environment, thus fulfilling the foundational level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs for students. In addition to law enforcer, an SRO is also an educator and informal counselor. The history of school resource officers dates back to 1953, when a police officer in the city of Flint, Michigan was assigned to a school on a full-time basis. Similar to the role of SROs today, that first SRO in Flint was expected to advise teachers and counsel students, primarily about such issues as bicycle and traffic safety. Then in the 1960s and 1970s, illicit drug use exploded, especially in schools. This prompted many school districts across the country, in Florida, Nevada, and California, to name a few states, to have their own district-operated police departments. Illinois school districts are not allowed to have a district or school-run police departments, according to Illinois School Code. In the 1980s and 1990s, schools harnessed the educational contributions of SROs by implementing SRO-taught drug abuse resistance education, also known as DARE, and gang resistance education and training, also known as GREAT. The shooting massacres at Columbine High School in 1999 and Sandy Hook Elementary School in 2012, and now the recent one at Marjorie Stoneham Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, have prompted the tax-paying public to view using SROs as a means to prevent physical violence in schools. Yes, the SRO is an emergency manager. The SRO will collaborate with school leaders to design and implement safety plans. The SROs will be the first responders on a school site in the event of an emergency. And the SRO is the liaison between the school and local law enforcement agencies. However, an SRO can and should be so much more to a school than just an emergency manager. This presentation will show the plethora of ways an SRO can strengthen a school community. Once assigned to a school, typically by voluntarily completing an application with the local police department which employs them, the school is now the officer's beat. As a comparison, the city of Chicago is broken up into 279 police beats. 8 to 9 officers are assigned to work a particular beat for a year or more. These officers patrol the area, and in doing so, they form relationships with community members. At his or her school beat, the SRO lends, quote, training, knowledge, and experience, unquote, to school administrators on how to handle situations of a law enforcement nature. The SRO also guides school officials on how to create and maintain, quote, a safe and secure environment, unquote. Swansea, Illinois, no date, paragraph 4. For example, the previous SRO at Kennedy Junior High School in Lisle, Illinois, advised the principal to add doors with locks in certain parts of the school building. So who funds and trains SROs? Typically, the local police department that is located in the same city, town, or village boundary as the school pays the SRO's salaries. Sometimes a combination of state and local school district funds will pay the SRO's salaries. Alternatively, a federal agency, such as the U.S. Department of Justice, which has an Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services, will pay the salaries of SROs. Regardless of how the position is funded, it is typically up to a local school district to decide whether or not to utilize an SRO. Furthermore, most SROs are supervised and evaluated by their supervisors at the police station. Specialized training for school resource officers is strongly recommended but not mandated in every state. Illinois does not mandate any training for SROs. Officer Kurt Lavarello, who became Fort Lauderdale's first SRO in 1986 and helped found the National Association of School Resource Officers, recommends that SROs receive training in state and federal school law and special education law. Lavarello recommends that SROs also learn how to be a police officer on a school site, since there is a, quote, huge difference between policing the streets and policing a school hallway, unquote, Trump 2010, paragraph 20. SROs should also learn how to plan for critical incidents, how to design school safety protocols, and crime prevention through environmental design. Are SROs considered school personnel? Regardless of the entity who funds and trains them, yes, Illinois School Code says so. Additionally, according to Illinois School Code, school districts are expected, quote, to provide ongoing professional development on the adverse consequences of school exclusion and justice system involvement, unquote, along with, quote, culturally responsive, unquote, and, quote, developmentally appropriate disciplinary methods that promote positive and healthy school climates, unquote. Illinois General Assembly, no date, section 10-22.6. Along with, quote, teachers, administrators, school board members, unquote, and other school staff such as guidance counselors and social workers, SROs should be included in professional development regarding discipline per Illinois School Code. Illinois General Assembly, no date, section 10-22.6. According to the National Association of School Resource Officers, an SRO has 3 roles: law enforcer, informal counselor, and educator. In their role as law enforcers, SROs work alongside school leaders to promote safety and positive behaviors among the students. SROs can also help address crime in the schools and guide school leaders in dealing with threats to the school, gang-related offenses, or the appropriate processes in handling weapons or drugs found on school grounds. SROs are available to promote positive behaviors and build relationships with students. They can help de-escalate situations within the school and provide support, guidance, and agency connections for young people needing services. As educators, SROs can train school personnel on how to handle crisis situations, such as lockdown take-cover drills. SROs can teach students the DARE curriculum, and they can also teach civics lessons, such as lessons about the Bill of Rights. SROs can also teach students how to protect themselves and be respectful to others with social media. Do SROs discipline students? SROs can be witnesses when a student is questioned by school administrators during a disciplinary offense. With their law enforcement knowledge and objective to maintain a safe school, SROs can counsel school administrators on what consequences to issue. But SROs do not discipline. They are not the ones issuing school consequences. What does Illinois School Code say about SROs? According to Illinois School Code, SROs should work to limit students' encounters with justice systems and collaborate with school officials to design and implement anti-bullying policies. SROs should receive training in the latest restorative justice measures, which are, quote, a continuum of school-based alternatives to exclusionary discipline, such as suspensions and expulsions, unquote. Illinois General Assembly, no date, section 27-23.7. Rather than focusing on punitive consequences, restorative justice promotes positive growth. Restorative justice calls for consequences that teach and, quote, keep students in school, unquote. Illinois General Assembly, no date, section 27-23.7. Furthermore, in keeping with the objective to build a trusting relationship with law enforcement personnel, schools in Illinois are not to have booking stations. Are there any proposed changes to the role of SRO in Illinois School Code? As of February 18, 2018, there are no proposed changes or amendments. However, in January 2018, the Illinois Council of School Attorneys published new guidelines regarding the interviewing of students at school. More information about these new guidelines will come later in this presentation. There are several potential problem areas when police officers work in a school. Certainly, the dearth of mandated trainings for SROs contributes to these problems. The majority of states do not mandate training or regulations for SROs, and Illinois is one of these states. Thorough and ongoing training would likely prevent SROs from arresting students for minor classroom infractions, which can then feed these students into the school-to-prison pipeline by subjecting young people to negative encounters with law enforcement agencies. Here is an example of the complex interactions between the law ensuring a safe and productive school environment and students' rights. When acting upon their own initiative with the objective of maintaining order, discipline, and safety in the school, an SRO is permitted to interview a student without first reading the student his or her Miranda rights and asking the student's parents or guardians for permission to conduct the interview, according to the Illinois Council of School Attorneys 2018. But students still have civil rights even when they are on school grounds. SROs should tread carefully in regards to interviewing students, searching students, and using force with students. The rest of this presentation is devoted to the roles the Fourth and Fifth Amendment play in students' interactions with SROs. What is the nexus between SROs and the Fourth Amendment? The full Fourth Amendment, which is about searches and seizures, is provided for your reference. The SRO is still held to the Fourth Amendment. In New Jersey versus TLO, the Supreme Court decided that school officials have some leeway to conduct reasonable searches of students' possessions. That is, there must be reasonable grounds for suspecting that the search will turn up evidence that the student has violated or is violating either the law or the rules of the school. The court appears to not distinguish between police officers and school resource officers in terms of leeway to the Fourth Amendment. The court also stated that in order to stop and frisk a student for a search, the police officer must be able to point to specific and articulable facts. Furthermore, according to Illinois attorney Michelle Mebakiani-Wiley, when interviewed about the intensive questioning of a high school student by an SRO regarding photos on the student's phone, quote, "Students have civil rights," unquote, that they maintain even after they are on school grounds. Savini, 2017, paragraph 13. Best practice thus indicates that SROs should almost always refrain from searching and seizing students unless they have specific and articulable facts. School officials need reasonable cause to search a student's belongings. Two tests exist to determine reasonableness. The search is justified at its inception. This means that there are reasonable grounds for suspecting that the search will turn up evidence that the student has violated or is violating either the law or the rules of the school. Also, the scope of the search must be reasonable. New Jersey versus TLO gave us these two tests. Best practice informs us that SROs can serve as guides or witnesses in school searches. They should only handle students' belongings if they have specific and articulable facts. School officials have more flexibility under the Fourth Amendment. SROs are strictly held to the Fourth Amendment. We often summarize the Fifth Amendment as the right to remain silent. The full Fifth Amendment is provided for your reference. What is the nexus between SROs and the Fifth Amendment? That is, can SROs interview students? Yes, but there are boundaries. In January 2018, the Illinois Council of School Attorneys released revised guidelines for interviews of students by law enforcement authorities. You may retrieve the full PDF document via this website. And the website link provided at the end of this presentation will also provide a link to this document. It is crucial that school leaders and SROs know these new guidelines for interviewing students to ensure that they do not violate students' civil rights. These guidelines address administering Miranda rights to students, the Immigration and Customs and Enforcement, or ICE agents, requesting records for interviews with students, complying with subpoenas or court orders to release student records, and DCFS interactions with students. Some highlights are, when acting on their own initiative to maintain an orderly learning environment, SROs may interview students without obtaining parent permission first for the following situations: fights or rumors of upcoming fights between students that impact or will impact the school environment, student-to-student or student-to-school personnel threats, gang-related activity, and drug or weapon possession on school property. Can SROs arrest students? Quote, law enforcement agents are authorized to arrest a student based upon warrant or without a warrant if they determine there is probable cause to believe that the individual has committed a crime, unquote. ICSA 2018, page 4. The arrest should be done as discreetly as possible to avoid embarrassing the student as much as possible. To maintain a trusting relationship between students and SROs, best practice is having a different officer from the local police department come to the school to make the arrest. Here is a summary of some SRO's do's and don'ts. SROs are expected to employ non-punitive techniques when interacting with students. Arrests should be made only as a last resort. Why should schools have SROs? The priority of SROs in schools is student safety. By creating a safe learning environment, SROs promote the school mission, a positive school culture, and student learning. Quote, SRO programs encourage dialogue between schools and law enforcement to help bridge the gap across these professional cultures, identify and develop a shared vision, and align school philosophies with SRO's commitment to safety. Unquote. Rosiak 2015, page 2. Here is a higher level thinking scenario. You are the principal of a high school. A teacher tells you that he overheard 2 female students in his classroom discussing students who have cocaine. According to the teacher, one student said, "Justin has it in his backpack." The teacher has no idea who Justin is. As the principal, you need to handle this problem. You do tell the SRO about this. How do you expect the SRO to help you? As the principal, what will you do? Pause the presentation to think about these questions. Here is a suggested response. According to the ICSA guidelines of 2018, SROs may interview students without parent permission for incidents regarding drug possession on school property. A school official, such as a dean or principal, should ask the teacher for the full names of these girls. Then the school official should pull the girls out of class to ask them for the full name of Justin. To be in compliance with the Fourth Amendment and New Jersey versus TLO, a school official may search a student's belongings within reason. Justin's backpack should be searched. Both the SRO and school official should be in the room when Justin's backpack is searched. However, only the school official should touch the backpack. The SRO should be present as a witness. If cocaine is found, then the student should be arrested. However, the SRO should not conduct the arrest. Instead, police officers from the local police department should be called to the school to make the arrest. If cocaine is not found in Justin's backpack, his locker and vehicle may be searched by a school official for reasonable grounds of suspicion.